Hello and welcome to Moonshot, a show by Sequoia India and Southeast Asia that profiles innovative startups and inspiring founders who are dreaming big, making an impact, and driving change across the region. I'm your host, Dewi Fabri, and throughout this podcast, we'll be introducing you to founders and thought leaders who are helping shape the region's startup ecosystem. We hope this podcast will give you fresh ideas on how to start and scale an enduring company. The global EdTech market, currently worth over $250 billion, is expanding rapidly as students of all ages turn to online learning. That's all thanks to the cost and convenience of learning online, as well as educators looking for new and creative approaches to teaching. In 2017, Hugh Yao started LingoAce after he watched his son struggling to learn Mandarin. The program, which started off with a Mandarin Chinese curriculum, uses AI and machine learning, as well as gamification, to make learning fun for kids. On this episode of Moonshot, LingoAce co-founder and CEO Hugh Yao chats with Abheek Anand, managing director at Sequoia India and Southeast Asia, on how he's driving LingoAce to become a global startup with international teams, what it takes to hire Moonshot talent, and how the company launched its English program in just 3 months.
Let me actually do a quick round of intro for Hugh. And actually, rather than going into his background, maybe what I'll do is I will share a little bit of our perspective on how we met Hugh and give you guys a little bit of context on LingoAce and what the company is doing before turning it over to him. We first intersected with Hugh when a couple of folks in our Singapore office met the company. I want to say maybe in first quarter of 2020. We met Hugh, and at that time, it was a very small business. The company had maybe 20 people working out of a co-working space. While we really liked what Hugh was building and really enjoyed the conversation, we had lots of questions in our minds. We had questions like, hey, how big is the market that Hugh is going after? The business is quite early. Let's understand the business a little bit better. And so, one of the things that we ended up doing, we took a little bit of time to try to understand the business. Fortunately, we got a chance to partner with Hugh in November of 2020. So the story that Hugh will actually relate to you is all of 15 months old. I think that context is actually helpful to keep in mind because, sometimes, when you see the progress that these guys have made, it's hard to forget, hard to remember that the Series A was really done 15 months ago. We partnered with Hugh and, the company was basically building a global EdTech play with Chinese language learning as an anchor point. Look, in the 15 months since we've partnered, the company has grown, the product has grown, Hugh's ambitions have grown. And as is relevant for this conversation today, just the quality of the team that he's hired has been absolutely fantastic. So we'll try to cover a few of these topics in today's conversation. What does LingoAce do? How fast they've grown, what their ambitions are. What are some of the key things that Hugh did in the very early days that really helped him, accelerate this path that he's sort of been on for the last few quarters? And then where do they want to be going next? And Hugh will give you guys some color on that. But with that, let me turn it over to Hugh. And Hugh, maybe let me ask you a quick question. Give people maybe a sense of what you guys are doing today. How fast have you grown? You said at the start of this conversation, you wish you'd grown faster, but you guys have been on an absolute tear. So tell us a little bit about the company. How big is it? Where are the employees? Let's start off with that.
Yeah. So I think in the last 2 years, definitely was really amazing 2 years. I know, and the COVID hits the world. So many business, are suffering. But actually, in the last 2 years, actually was, extremely amazing to us. EdTech definitely is the most important sector. And our business grew 40 times and over the last 2 years, 2020 and 2021, last 2 years. And from the customer perspective, actually, and at the beginning, probably we only have the customer from 2-3 countries. But after 2 years, we expand our business to 100 countries. And actually, in more than 100 countries. And also our team, headquarters is based in Singapore. And we have team in US, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and China as well. So totally, and our employee, as you mentioned, when you met us, that's early 2020, we only have 20 plus employees, roughly, right? So, but actually right now, globally, we have 2,000 employees, plus another 4,000 and the part-time, freelancers, teachers. So if you would count the teacher together, so we have, about 6,000 and part-time and full-time employees together. So That's all really achieved over last 2 years. So China is the biggest and the office we are actually, and it's more than 1,000 employees in China. So that's kind of the where we are. Definitely, I think in the next few years, definitely, and we believe we can grow more. So as we sit down, talk about a plan, actually, we believe next 5 years probably, and we have the big chance to hit 1 billion in revenue. So that's kind of our target in next four to 5 years.
Guys, actually, there's a lot to unpack, I think, in what Hugh has said. I know he's covered a lot of ground in this, but let me sort of give you guys a little bit next level color into what Hugh just said. When he said he's grown 40x in the last 2 years, Hugh, I remember doing the math on last quarter's revenue, on last quarter's bookings, you were basically in the triple digit. When people say 40x, sometimes it could be, a small number to a relatively large number. In this case, the company has gone from like low single digits in bookings run rate to triple digit bookings run rate. And I know, Hugh, you want to add another zero to that number and get to 1 billion soon. But at least that for us is sort of the ambition and the target that Hugh is going after. I think the other thing, Hugh, that you pointed out, which look is absolutely fantastic, fascinating, and not something that I've seen very often, if at all, is that even in today's world, you're one of the few companies that has, headquarters in Singapore, the majority of your employees in China, and the majority of your customers in North America and Europe. That is actually quite fascinating. When companies build global businesses from the very early days, often it is a team that is really sitting in one market and then the customers are sitting all over the world. In your case, what you've done is you've got a team that's also spread out quite globally. Just talk a little bit about, team structure, culture. How do you think of the organization? I know there's a particular phrase you've used with us in the past on how you describe the company and the team. Just talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think it's more about the mindset. I think as a founder and everything actually, and there's no limit. The only limit is yourself, right? So yourself put the limits in, then you think about it. We couldn't do that. We need to develop one country. We need to focus on this, all these kind of things. But actually in our definition, we call our native global startup, right? So we are not MNC, right? We are not corporate. We call it native global startup. And in my background, I have more than 10 years working experience with the MNC from US. I was working with Oracle, IBM, Salesforce, right? So basically, I know how MNC works. So that's why, and very deep in my mind, in my heart, I don't really have the fear, right? I don't have the fear to manage a global team because, even when I was in Salesforce, I managed a global team. I have employees in Australia, in Japan, in Korea, in Southeast Asia, in China. So that's why I think it's doable. And also, we have a very big ambition. So that's why I think that's the only way to differentiate us. So that's why I tell all the, not only investor, but also my executive teams, I told them, we need to do the hardest thing, right? So if you choose the easy things to do, many people choose that way, right? That route is very, very crowded. But, if we choose the hardest way to build a global company from day one, so actually, and the very few people compete against us. So that's why you can see that in each country, we have some smaller competitor. But, as a whole, nobody competes against us. So that's why we really take the advantage to of becoming a global company. So that's why you realize actually, and we have highly distributed organization. So our head of the product is based in US, and our head of academic and based in China, and our head of finance based in Singapore. Myself is based everywhere. We don't really have a physical headquarter concept. So that's why actually, and we really have this kind of the structure, and also everybody collaborate and through the remote working more. So I think a few principles are very, very important. It's really about transparency is very important. So because we don't really work together, face to face. So that's why a data-driven, transparency, and also and the trust with each other, fundamental culture in our company. So every morning when I wake up, I just turn on my mobile phone. I can check all the data from every country. I know the performance in Thailand, Indonesia, Singapore, US, China immediately, every morning. It's all about, and performance data. And after that, we identify the issues, not only about our growth team, our marketing team, and they are data driven, even our curriculum team. If you guys know education industry is a very, very, slow grow business, right? So they have been there for many, many years. So even our curriculum team, they are using data to drive their development. Every time when we have some iteration, we monitor the data, we have the A/B test. we see the conversion rate, we see the retention rate, so that we can make the call whether this improvement is the right direction or not. If not, we can just adjust very quickly. So that's why last few years, and we iterate our curriculum, iterate our product in a very, very fast way. So, and that's the way we can work during the pandemic and remotely.
On the people front, and that's one of the key topics for today's conversation, one of the things that has always blown my mind is just how ambitious you are when it comes to hiring. You have these crazy ambitious hires and you manage to pull them off. Yeah. Give us an example. How did you think about it? How did you get people on board?
Of course, you talk about one successful case. Behind that, there are many, many failed cases, right? So as a founder, actually, before I talk about the successful case, I can share with you, don't be afraid of the failure, right? Every time when I talk with investors, my tone is really about, hey, we don't really need money. So we just need talents. Can you give me some names? So that's why actually, so the name, actually, the candidate is from Goldman, actually, and he works in education industry for more than a decade. So basically, he helps a lot of the education company, including Baidu, this kind of company, to really raise money, to go IPO, go public. So that's why he knows the education industry inside out. Very senior guy. So, and I spent probably 2 or 3 months to really share my vision about the company, and also the uniqueness of ourselves. And also, actually, even more than that, I introduced him to Abheek and also another investors from US. So basically, and I use actually Abheek and actually as my resource, right, to really help me to convince Abheek, and did very good help to us to share what is the Sequoia's investment and the logic. So that actually I use every resource I can to really convince this guy to join us. So that's why actually, and from the first engagement with him and to the official on board, it took me about 7 months. So, but actually, and I never dedicate to my HR team. So personally, I hold this. You think about, they don't want to talk with your HRD or HR VP or TA, no way. So they only talk with you. That's the first thing. Another one is really about to use all the resources around you. So as a founder, you are not alone, right? So why do you take money from Sequoia? Sequoia is the most important resource for you, right? So that's why actually just use every single part you can leverage, like myself. So that's kind of the example. Of course, when he joins us, definitely brings a lot of the difference. So firstly, in a daily base, he stretched myself, right? Because as a founder, we have our own limits. So we have our family background and education background, working experience. So these are the source of our strength, but at the same time, is our limit as well. So that's why actually, if we can have a people from completely different background, so he or she can really stretch us every day. That's very, very important. So that's why, very often we have different opinions, but we can debate, we can discuss, we can work out a solution. So that's why this kind of I think this kind of the structure would be very important. So that's why around me, he's just one. There are a few others. They are from different cultural background. They're from different education background. So that's why actually, and myself can be stretched and with their different opinions. And also I would highlight co-founder is very, very important and for the success, because everyone, including you, including myself, and we have a weakness, right? So as a CEO, everybody has weakness. So that's why actually, and it's very, very important. We need to be very frank to ourselves. I have the self-reflection, not every day. I would have said every week or the other week, I have a certain period to have the self-reflection. So what I have done last 1 or 2 weeks. So can we do it better? Can I do it better? So this is kind of the self-reflection is very important. So that's why I realized I do have, and the weakness in this company. I'm good at strategy, but it means that I'm not good at execution. But the company is very good at execution, right? But I'm not, right? But how can I do that? Find a co-founder who is very good at execution, so he or she can really fill the gap, right? So for example, I'm really data-driven. I'm really strategy-driven. So that's why I'm not a relationship-driven person. But actually, in your company, you need somebody care people. Otherwise, the company couldn't really go that fast. It will be broken, right? So that's why actually my co-founder cares people. So that's why actually you find the people who are complement to yourself and to grow the business. That's the most important thing. So that's kind of sharing, just be brave and break your own limits, and also just try to talk with anyone in this world who can help you. So that's kind of my experience, and also leverage the resources around yourself.
Hugh, I've heard this story many times, and every time, I'm very inspired. How much time today do you spend on human resources, like hiring, team, culture?
I think minimum 50 to 60%. Very, very minimum, because it's different. Actually, if your business is a very core technology oriented business, when you grow, for example, like WhatsApp, right? So WhatsApp, even when they were sold to Facebook, it was a very small team. I remember it's kind of the 50, 60 employees, right? So in that sense, the culture might not be that important. But in our case, we grow from 20 to 2,000. So that's why culture is very, very critical. So that's why actually hiring, culture, I minimum spend under 50% of my time. For weekdays, sometimes I have a lot of the internal meetings. So that's why I put interview on, on weekend. I think the 2 weeks ago, that's the most crazy weekend. I have 10 interviews in a day. So whole Saturday. So that's why actually, that's my calendar looks like. So hiring is the most important task. And the culture now becomes, even more important, because we hire a lot of the talents. We need to make sure they can be integrated in this company and with the single culture, right? Because the people from different companies, they have different the background. We need to make sure they believe the same thing as myself. So that's kind of the culture becomes more important than hiring right now. But hiring was always the most important for me.
I'm sure a lot of you have been tracking what happened in China in the EdTech market when the government changed regulations overnight and basically the category disappeared. I remember having a conversation with Hugh where, at that time we were starting to talk to investors about our Series C. And by the way, we ended up doing an internal Series C. So, Sequoia led that round alongside other folks internally. But external investors were asking this question: hey, the China market has completely disappeared. Like, does that have an impact on us and us as a LingoAce as a business? I remember, Hugh, your comment at that time. Your comment was, "This is an amazing time for me to hire all those people." And I guess one thing that I want to maybe bring out, because of the talent we were able to hire, we were able to launch our second product like very, very quickly. Just share a little bit of that story. How did you find these people? What was the product like? How quickly did you manage to launch?
Yeah, that proves and why do I spend so much time on hiring? Because I believe hiring really changed the whole pace of the company. So if you don't really understand the background of the education business in China, so the education business in China was the largest education business globally. So immediately we have done all the mapping of some top companies. So we understand the whole structure. We identify who are whom, right? So that's why within a month, and we built the English live team. So as you know, actually, our core business was Chinese. The first 4 years, we only focus on Chinese education, but actually we think it's right timing. So that's why we acquire the entire English and the live curriculum and the teacher team from a company. So that's why the whole team was built within a month. So actually they know each other, they know the subject very well, they know how to manage teacher. From the day we built the department and to the date we launched the product, soft launched the product, it only take us 3 months. So 3 months actually is an amazing story. It's not just China team. You think about the teacher was hired in US and the UK, and the curriculum is built in China, actually, and also the teacher management is in China. And also the marketing team is in Singapore. So the first country we launched is Thailand. So the customer acquisition team is in Thailand. So you think about US, China, Singapore, Thailand, and the 4 countries work together to finish one product launch within 3 months. Actually, and the even more important, it's not really about your launch, right? It's about the quality of the launch. So for the first, we set a very, very good, a target. For example, the alpha test, we set the customer and the satisfaction rate. We put 8 out of 10 as kind of the criteria. So eventually we hit 8.9. So and the beta test, we put 8 again, but actually we passed that with 9 point something. So basically the first launch, we just exceed our target significantly. The only reason is we hire a very good talents and we trust them, we give them resources, and we make sure the global process work together. So that's why a good hire can save a lot of the effort of the team. If I just use my existing team, right? They are the Chinese and the subject and experts. So when they launch a new product for English, there are a lot of the and the traps and a lot of the and the lessons they didn't learn, right? So for startup, I think the time is the most precious and the resource for us. So as a founder, we need to understand, is this a tactical play or strategic play? Is a tactical play, of course, we can have the negotiation, we can have the all and the comms and and the benchmark, all these kind of things. It takes a few months to close one hire. But if it's a strategic play, every day matters. So that's why I think about, again, it's good hire really and accelerate everything. So that's why in our company last few years, we have a few game changers. So that's why I think that we can grow 40 times over last 2 years.
Hugh, that was awesome. And look, I think one of the things that, at least from our perspective, has always blown my mind is, how 9 months ago, we were all worried about what was going on in China, not realizing that behind all that stress, there was this amazing opportunity that you recognized, and you managed to say, hey, let's ignore the noise. Let's find the people.
Yeah.
That was really, I think one of the things that you brought a tremendous amount of clarity to, just saying, hey guys, whatever will happen in the market will happen. The one thing we can control is this amazing talent. It's literally almost a once in a lifetime opportunity to hire from, a decacorn or from the best talent from those companies. And you did that really well. So
yeah, actually I do call it out called lifetime opportunity. So I truly believe that some investors worry about, hey, maybe the competition landscape would be different. I think that's not really under our control. What we can control just to get the best talents, to develop our products, to drive our expansion. That's something we can control. So that's why be positive and really from any change. So, and every change is opportunity for startup, right? So that's why for us, we just grab the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Hugh, for all of your insights. Look, every time I talk to you, I'd walk away with many things. And this time around as well, I was making some notes on some stuff you've said. On behalf of the team today, Hugh, thank you for your time.
You've been listening to co-founder and CEO of LingoAce, Hugh Yao, in conversation with Abheek Anand, Managing Director at Sequoia India and Southeast Asia. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dewi Fabri, and for more interesting startup stories, visit our website, sequoiacap.com, or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.